Now children, we will read about the Mughals and their empire. So far we discussed about how the Mughal empire was set up in India. Now this is the map which tells us about the expansion of Mughal empire. You can see that it was from Afghanistan, that is in Central Asia, to the Odisha, coastal plain of Odisha, and this expansion, which here it is shown with the pink color, is the expansion of the empire till the time of Akbar. But when Aurangzeb took over the control of the Mughal dynasty, he further expanded his empire in the southern side of the Mughal rule during the time of Aurangzeb. So Aurangzeb expanded his empire further towards the South India, and many parts of South India also came under the control of the Aurangzeb by that time. So we can say that during the 16th and 17th century, the institution of the empire, imperial structure were created, and these included effective method of administration and taxation. So to control such a vast and large empire, they required a good administrative and effective system of coordination, which they implemented. And after the 1707, when Aurangzeb died, because he died in 1707, with the death of Aurangzeb, the power of the dynasty started diminishing, means it started declining. In place of the vast apparatus of empire controlled from Delhi, Agra and Lahore. So here the name of the three cities have been given, that is the Delhi, Agra and Lahore. So these used to be the most important city during the time of the Mughal rule in India, because these used to be the capital at different point of times during the rule of Mughal India. So the capital used to be the Agra, Delhi and Lahore. The different capital cities, regional power acquired greater autonomy. Apart from that, there were some regional power. They also became autonomous after the death of Aurangzeb, means they became powerful thereafter the death of Aurangzeb. Yet symbolically, the prestige of the Mughal rule did not lose its aura, means still in India the Mughal rule was considered to be very important, and its descendant used to be respected a lot among the masses. And that was the reason why during the revolt of 1857, the rebellious leader used to make these people their leader. Like Bahadur Shah Zafar was made the leader by the rebellious leaders against the Britishers when they started the revolt of 1857, and he gave the legitimacy to their revolt against the British. So Bahadur Shah was made the leader of the rebellious people at that time, and he was overthrown by the British during, after that revolt was crushed by the British army in 1857, and thereafter Bahadur Shah Zafar was sent to the exile to Myanmar, that was in Rangoon, and there he died in the exile. So that was the end of the Mughal rule in India. Now how we get to know about this information about the Mughal rule in India, their policies, their way of administration, how they used to control the empire, what kind of battle they fought, what was the administrative apparatus, what kind of the revenue system. All this information we get from the chronicles which were written during the time of Mughal rule in India. Chronicles commissioned by the Mughal emperor are important source for studying the empire and its courts. So these are the important source from where we get to know about the Mughal rule in India. The author of the Mughal chronicles were invariably courtiers, means the writer during the Mughal rule who wrote these chronicles, they used to be the courtier and in the court of the Mughal ruler. So they used to be the eyewitnesses who used to live there in the Mughal rule. The histories they wrote focused on events centered on the ruler. So they used to remain close to the ruler. So whatever happening around the ruler and whatever happening which are having its effect upon the ruler, they used to record all those incidents and events, his family, the court and nobles, wars and administrative arrangements. So these were the various topics which were covered by these court historians, and they were written in the chronicles which were written by them. Their titles such as Akbarnama, so these are the name of those chronicles, like Akbarnama, which was the biography of Akbar, Shahjahanama, which was considered to be the biography of Shah Jahan, and Alamgir Nama. Alamgir is another name of Aurangzeb. So this is also a history of Aurangzeb. That is the story of Akbar, Shah Jahan and Alamgir, a title which is given to the Mughal ruler, that is Aurangzeb, which I told you earlier also, suggests that in the eyes of their author, the history of empire and the court was synonymous with that of the empire. Means why they named after the emperor, their history was named after the emperor, because the emperor used to be the most powerful figure during the Mughal rule. As a result, the history which was written about the Mughal rule, that was named after the ruler of that time, like Akbar, Shah Jahan and or Alamgir. Now from Turkish to Persian. So what was the language of these chronicles that we will discuss over here? Mughal court chronicles were written in Persian language. Maximum chronicles which were written at that time, they were written in the Persian language. So Persian language was having its influence upon the Mughal rule in India. Under the Sultan of Delhi, it flourished as a language of the court. So earlier there used to be Sultanate. Right after the invasion of Muhammad Ghori, there used to be different Sultanate periods in India. So the language during the Sultanate period was the Persian language, that was the official language, and it was also continued by the Mughal ruler in India. So that was a form of writing, that was a language of writing of chronicles at that time. The Mughal rulers were Chagatai Turks, means they were Chagatai Turks who came from the Central Asia, and their homeland was the Turkestan. So their language was also the Turkish. Was their mother tongue, so Turkish was their mother tongue. So Babur came from Central Asia and his mother tongue was the Turkish. So he wrote his autobiography. Babur was also a very good writer, so he wrote his autobiography, that is also called Tuzke Baburi. That was also written in the Turkish language. So initially the language of writing of the Mughal chronicle was the Turkish language, but later on it shifted to the Persian language. Now again from Turkish to the Persian language. It was Akbar who was consciously set out to make Persian the learning or the leading language of the Mughal court. So Mughal court's Persian official language became the Persian language under the administration of Akbar. So why Akbar favored the Persian language? Because Akbar was born during the exile of Humayun when he was not in India, and he was in the court of the Iranian ruler, that is the Safavid dynasty. So he learnt their Persian language, and Persian was having a great impact on his life. So he made Persian as the official language of the Mughal court. Cultural and intellectual contact with Iran, as well as a regular stream of Iranian and Central Asian migrants seeking position at the Mughal court. So many Persian people also accompanied Humayun, and they also got their position in the Mughal court. So Persian became an important official language in the Mughal court. Might have motivated the emperor to adopt the language. So their arrival must have influenced the ruler to adopt the Persian as the official language of the court, because maximum courtiers used to be the Persian at that time. Persian was elevated as the language of the empire, means other people were also asked to speak the Persian language, and they were motivated to speak and write in the Persian language. It was spoken by the king. King himself used to speak Persian language. So they left the Turkish language, which used to be the mother tongue of these Chagatai Turks, but they adopted the new language, that is the Persian language. The royal household and the elite at the court, they also used to speak the Persian language. Further, it became the language of administration at all level, means it became an administrative language, so that accountants, clerk and other functionaries also learnt it, means accounts and clerical work were all maintained. So documentation was also done in the language, that is the Persian language. So we can see that earlier during the time of Babur, Turkish language used to be very important, because he was also a Chagatai Turk who used to speak Turkish language, because Turkish used to be their mother tongue. But later on, the subsequent rulers shifted their attention from Turkish to the Persian language, and Persian became more important language than the Turkish. So after the Babur's memoir, other chronicles were also written in the Persian language. Then, since people using Persian in the 16th and 17th century came mainly from different regions of the subcontinent and spoke Indian languages. So the people who used to serve the Mughal rule or Mughal ruler, and who used to be the courtier in the court of the Mughal ruler, they came from different parts of India, and they were also speaking different kind of languages, because they generally used to speak their mother tongue. And you know that there are many languages which is spoken in the Indian subcontinent. So many of their idioms were also absorbed by the Persian language. So there was a mixture of Persian and their local languages, and in this way a new language sprang out, and that was called Urdu language. So when Persian language was mixed up with Indian languages, which was generally spoken by the courtier of the Mughal court, so Persian and Indian language both joined together to form a new language, and that new language is called the Urdu language. So this gave birth to a new language, that is the Urdu language, and in coming years this Urdu language became very important language of India. Now coming to the point, how these chronicles used to be made, how they used to be written. So we will read about the making of manuscripts. Why they are called manuscripts? Because they were manually written, so they are called the manuscripts, because at that time there was no printing press. All books in Mughal India were manuscripts. They were written by the scripts, they were handwritten, that's why they are called manuscripts. And the center of the manuscript production was the Imperial Kitab Khana. So Kitab Khana was kind of a library, but not only the books were kept there, rather they were also produced in that library. So that is the basic difference between this Kitab Khana and modern library. The creation of manuscripts involved a number of people performing a variety of tasks. So there used to be a number of people who used to be involved in the writing of chronicle, and they used to perform a variety of different tasks. Paper makers needed to prepare the folios. So paper maker used to make the paper on which the chronicle used to be written by the scribes, and scribes or the calligrapher who used to write the text upon the chronicle, and the text was prepared by somebody else, and the scribe used to copy that text on the folios which was prepared by the paper maker. Gilders used to illuminate the pages so that they look very attractive. Painters to illustrate scene from the text. So there used to be some portion of the paper which used to be left blank so that the painter can insert the proper image in that place. So that was the work of the painter. And thereafter, when these things used to be ready, bookbinder used to gather these pages and he used to arrange them in a proper order, and there used to be an ornamental cover upon that book. So in this way a chronicle used to be produced. So there used to be number of people who used to be involved in the making of the manuscript or that chronicle, and they used to perform a variety of tasks. You can see from the image also that how the chronicle production is being done in the Imperial Kitab Khana. So there are a number of people who are involved in different variety of tasks. Now the finished manuscript was seen as a precious object. So when the manuscripts used to be finished, that used to be considered to be very important object, and it was an intellectual wealth and beauty. So it was a part of intellectual wealth and beauty, and it exemplified the power of its patron, the Mughal emperor, to bring such beauty into being. So this was considered to be an important task by the ruler, that he has got the chronicle prepared. At that time, some of the people involved in the actual production of manuscripts also got recognition in the form of title and awards. So those people who used to be involved in the production of these chronicles, they were also given a variety of awards as well as the titles. Of these, the calligraphers and the painter used to be considered the most important, because this was the most skillful task which was done by the calligrapher as well as the painter. So they were respected the most in making of the manuscripts, and they were given a lot of respect, and a number of titles used to be given to them. Bookbinders, paper makers, they were the other people who used to be involved there, but they were not given that kind of recognition which is given generally to the calligrapher and the painter in the Mughal court. Calligraphy, the art of handwriting, was considered a skill of great importance, and here it is a specimen of calligraphy of that time. So the person who used to have a beautiful handwriting, that was given a lot of importance, and it was practiced using different styles. So writing was also written in different styles, and this is the most favorite style of Akbar, that is the Nastaliq style, which was liked by the Akbar. And these writers were also given a variety of title, like the Jareen Kalam, means the golden pen. Now the painted image. Now what was the importance of the image? Since painters were also given a lot of respect in the production of the chronicle, the chronicles narrating the event of a Mughal emperor's reign contained, alongside the written text, images. So apart from the written text, there used to be images, and this is also one of the specimen of that image which is generally found in the chronicle. When scenes or themes in a book were to be given visual expression, so there were some scenes which could not be described through the words, so they were given some visual expression, and these visual expression was given through the images which were inserted by the painter. The scripts left blank spaces or nearby pages. Painting executed separately by the artist were inserted to accompany what was described in the words. So like here it has been described, and this is the painting beside this explanation. The same way there used to be the explanation in the book, and alongside the explanation or description there used to be a place which was left blank by the scribes, and a painting was inserted by the painter to further describe that particular scene. Paintings served not only to enhance the beauty of the book but were believed to possess special power. So painting was considered because it used to enhance the beauty of the book. Apart from that, it was also having certain special power of communicating ideas about the kingdom and the power of the kings in many ways. Means the power of the king could also be shown to the people through these paintings. Generally the king used to be shown with the halo behind their head. So that was a way through which the king was shown as the divine person. So that could only be done through the painting, not by the words. The historians Abul Fazl, who wrote the Akbarnama, described painting as the magical art. So these are the words of Abul Fazl. He called painting as the magical art, means it has a kind of magic which it generally influence upon the mind of the reader, and he says that it has the power to make inanimate object as if they possessed life. Means the objects which are inanimate, means which are not having life, they are painted in such a way that they looks that they are having a life. So inanimate objects were painted in such a manner that they seem to be having a life. So that kind of painters used to be there. So means painting was also a great art at that time, and it was praised by the writer as well as the ruler.